You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show with the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have that, but we do have Andy from Kansas. What's going on, Andy?
Oh, what an offseason. An emotional roller coaster. The Bears ran over their playoff chances by trading away Justin Fields. But then Ryan Poles saved them by gluing the team back together with the number 1 pick in the draft. But he's not that good at team building. So we patched them with old and random players from around the league. But he couldn't get more than 4 draft picks. Then, on draft weekend, he crushed the Bears again by trading a pick from next year. But I'm sure he'll rebuild them even better next draft. But it turns out their team is already dead. Probably when they drafted Fields in the first place.
Man, I'm sad that it took me that long to figure out what was going on there. That's hilarious. At first I was like, are the Bears being mocked or am I being mocked? And then right at the end there, it was like, oh, this is the turtle speech. Oh, people that don't watch The Office haven't, I don't know what the point of even listening to this show is because it's all just inside jokes. That was a pretty good impression too. I was like, this doesn't sound like Andy from Kansas at all. Like, this is an unusual voice. I almost want to go back and listen to it again now that I know probably when I ran over him the first time. Oh, that was good. Andy, what else you got for us?
Hey, Ryan, this is Andy, still stuck
There's
in
Andy.
Kansas. I know I've sent a few things in crushing the Bears and their stupid choices this offseason, especially the draft, but I wanted to give a few thoughts about the Packers draft, I thought, which was quite good. I think some of the biggest things really were just being able to draft, obviously guys in places of need, and the first, I'd say at least 4 guys should be able to challenge either starting or very key backup roles. You did that study where the guy was given points based on how important those positions were, and
sure.
Our guys that were picked were for obviously important positions for our team, but they're not necessarily high valued positions when it comes to linebacker and safety and stuff like that. But those are the kinds of guys that we needed. I mean, thinking of, sure, we replaced some guys, but we aren't replacing veterans with rookies necessarily. We replaced 2 pretty big spot, safety and running back, with 2 very good players. We certainly upgraded at safety. I'm thinking if we didn't get Xavier McKinney or Josh Jacobs and drafted 3 safeties and 1 running back, we would be very leery about how those positions are going to work out. But to have the draft picks complement the guys we got in free agency is really, really fantastic. I think that the question of what's the Packers' identity now is really starting to be answered. I think that was the main part of the draft here, was establishing an identity. First half of last year, very much up in the air. Is Jordan Love any good? Second half of the year, okay, Jordan Love is actually quite good, and we have incredibly young weapons on offense. That was kind of our identity, I suppose, by the end of the year, but when you trade out defensive coordinators, you kind of start over on that side. So what is the identity? Well, through the draft, I think it's the identity of play hard, play fast, hit people, and I think that's going to go a real long way.
Scared me. What's going on?
I'll call back. Bye.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I don't know what that noise was. That was who's talking in my office. Yeah, first of all, I would kind of like to go back and revisit that thing that I worked on. I wonder if there's a way, without going through 32 teams and doing it individually, if I could kind of go through and grade the draft that way. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with figuring out a way to do this, but there has to be a way. But I do agree that it's very largely, not only are we filling remaining holes, which is great, but you're right that a lot of this has to do with culture, right? We're bringing in the kinds of guys that we want. We want the physicality and all that kind of stuff.
This is Andy again. I'm curious what you think as far as how can scouts tell that a player is versatile instead of a tweener? You know, there's different tweeners. You know, there's defensive linemen or the edge players. Is he a tackle? Is he a guard on the offensive line? You know, there's some guys that are just kind of question marks. It seems like, you know, versatility, right? That's kind of a key word. Gutekunst uses it all the time, and the coaches certainly do. But how do scouts, maybe it comes down to scouting, I don't know. How do scouts know that a guy is versatile and not just a tweener? I mean, is it film? Is it, you know, based on things like snap counts? I mean, I'm thinking if a guy like Jacob Monk plays 3 years and plays 3 different positions, several hundred snaps at each position, that would say versatile, but does that say tweener? I guess I have no idea how they make that decision. Just wondering if you have any insight on that one. Secondly,
I mean, I don't, obviously you can't know. That's why some guys get drafted that are versatile that can't do either. I think it's a thing that I would wonder about, I'll say, is whether it might be better getting quote-unquote tweeners early, because the way I kind of view it is it's sort of like a Venn diagram, where you've got on one hand, let's say, what kind of things are we talking about here? Safety linebacker or something, right? You can kind of do both. On one circle, you've got all the attributes you want in a safety. In another circle, you've got all the attributes you want in a linebacker. Early round guys might be the types of guys that can fill in both, right? They can be all the height, weight, speed that you want for both positions. A lot of times, if you want a safety, you get guys that fill out the safety thing, and then they've got a little bit of linebacker maybe, or vice versa. I think sometimes you get something in the middle, and the smaller it is to where it fills out just the overlap, but not as much in the direction of what you want from either, is where it maybe starts to get a little bit dangerous. But I think just from a standpoint of like, how would you identify it? That's really all it is. It's, what do I want? I'm making up the safety linebacker thing, but what are the check boxes for a linebacker? He's got to be, let's say I want him to at least be 225 pounds, right? Which is a big safety. But let's say he is. Okay, so he's 225 pounds, and he can tackle, and he can do this and that, and all the other linebacker stuff. Then you've got, as a safety, he's got to have this kind of speed and range and coverage ability. Now, obviously, that would be scary. You're looking at it, you're saying, okay, he's a 225-pound safety. I just don't know. That's maybe, he's maybe a little bit oversized. Can he actually play safety? I don't know. And that is where it gets scary, because it's like, are you guys just trying to force this thing and make it happen because you think it would be cool? Because, you know, if he can do it, it would be amazing. Or is this a situation where he's too big and linebackery to be a safety, but at the same time, he's still kind of a small linebacker, and he's going to play like a small linebacker, so he's not going to be good at either. But I guess the only way I can answer it is how well does he fill in both bubbles? And that'll be up to the team, but also we could kind of look at that too. Just as much as we can on the surface say, I don't know, I'm kind of scared he might be a tweener, which is always going to be fair. I think the question ultimately comes down to look at it individually. Look at him at one moment, watch him play and say, okay, he's a linebacker. Is he playing? Compare him to, Edgerrin Cooper. Where does he rank compared to Edgerrin Cooper? And if he ends up being like the third best linebacker and the fifth best safety, that's a pretty good football player. But if he's, compared to actual linebackers, he's like 13th on your list, and he would be like your 10th best safety. We're just projecting here, and it's getting kind of scary. But at the end of the day, can you do the job? Right? Like guys that are like defensive tackle, edge rusher guys, like, oh, he's kind of a hybrid. Like, but here's the question. Can I put you on the edge and I think you can be Rashawn Gary, or you can be Lucas Van Ness, or you can be a legit pass rusher? And if I put you on the inside, can you be Devontae Wyatt? Can you be these guys? If I don't think you can, then what are we even talking about? We act as though the versatility is some kind of a virtue, but it's not. You're not a hybrid defensive tackle when you're playing defensive tackle. You're not a hybrid when you're playing defensive end. You're just a defensive end. You're just a defensive tackle. The question is, how good are you? Now, it's nice that we can move you, but are you any good at it? That's the more important question.
It'd be kind of fun to look back with some of the draft picks being at the end of these COVID years, these extra years in college. I wonder if we could put together a similar draft pick selection from this year where the Packers picked guys and actually made their average age older than what they are now. I'd have to look it up, but I bet that's probably possible. I think that would be wild if they would have added 11 guys and actually made the team older with draft picks. That's just an incredible possibility considering, just to highlight the fact that we're incredibly young. And I just think the energy is going to be awesome. Okay, bye.
Yeah, that is pretty wild, and I'm not going to do the math on it and look it up, but I'm guessing that is probably a possibility, and that's freaking hilarious that could be actually a thing. But either way, we're dropping draft picks onto this team, and they have less experience, but they're all the same age. They're all in the same phase of life, with many of these guys still chasing that first contract, still learning how to be professional, still full of optimism and excitement about what can be and everything else. So yeah, very, very cool, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. Why don't we go ahead and take a break now? It's a little bit early, but we don't have a massive amount of calls, so depending on the pace, we'll see how she goes. But we'll take a break. We got a lot of Kyle from Madison coming up. In the hobby, it's not easy being a fan of ripping packs or repacks. We get all hyped up thinking we're going to get some high-value Jordan Love card, but with zero transparency on available cards and hit rates, it's all just a shot in the dark. Until now, introducing slab packs from arenaclub.com, the only repack that provides real value, a complete view on all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Now when I buy slab packs on Arena Club, it finally feels like I know what I'm getting. And honestly, the best thing for me and my son is the fact that we're kind of novices into this. When I walk into a card shop with my son, and a card says it costs $40, kind of just taking his word for it that that's a good value. So I appreciate the transparency on grading, as well as just getting excited about seeing what you could potentially get. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. Wow, that's crazy offer. 10% off a $400 slab pack. That's $40 right there. Anyways, that's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase. We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built for us.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called
The Deal.
Listen to the deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Ryan, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
Kyle from Madison. How are you today, sir?
I'm all right.
So, I was curious what you thought. It's been interesting kind of watching people process the draft now. It's been a week. I do think some people have a little bit unrealistic expectations. Of course we do, right? Of course. But I remember, I don't remember who it was, but I remember getting roasted on YouTube last week because I suggested that either Hopper or Williams, one of the lesser known picks, and I said, well, at a minimum, maybe this guy's a special teams contributor. And a couple commenters on, I don't remember which social media site were roasting me saying, you don't take somebody in the 4th round to play special teams. And it's like, I disagree. Yes, I think you do. Like, if you get something more out of it, great. But I think it's pretty unrealistic to keep thinking we're going to be producing successful starters at every, 4th and 5th round pick. So I'm just curious, what do you think would constitute a successful draft this year? Because to me, this was a little different draft than what Goody's done in the past couple of years, in the sense that I thought he took a little bit safer picks this year, maybe a little bit less swinging for the fences, so to speak. And I think that makes sense because the squad, in my eyes, is a lot closer than it was last year. So it makes sense to me that you're looking for a little bit less developmental players. Maybe you're okay with a little bit older players. And although they didn't really go with the quote-unquote olds, they did go a little bit older. But in my eyes, it's like, look, if you get 2 out of your first 3 picks to hit, and then you're able to get a solid safety starter out of the 3 you took, and get something out of maybe Monk or Glover. It doesn't matter which one. Really, it doesn't matter. You just want to get probably if you could get an offensive line starter out of those 2, you'd be really happy. But Morgan being a starter on that offensive line is key. Even if it isn't at left tackle, although I think that's what's going to end up happening. And I think Edgerrin Cooper, I think, is kind of a pivotal one. Like, I really think they need that to work. Unless somehow Hopper ends up being the guy. But I think that you really need Morgan, you really need Cooper to hit, and then you need one of the safeties to hit. Now, I don't know. They might do more than that, but I'm just thinking at a minimum, that's kind of what you're looking for a successful draft this year, since it is more about filling pieces out. And I think the linebacker and safety rooms clearly were the targets this year. But if you can get a second offensive line contributor, you really got a great draft. But just wanted to hear your opinion. Talk to you later, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Packers decided, every year they do that thing where they pick a position and they go in hard on that position. They basically did that with 3 positions this year. And so I'm not sure that that's my absolute favorite long-term strategy, but if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I guess the bottom line is I want to see improvement in those areas. If you're going to go heavy at linebacker, we should have better linebackers. If you're going to go real hard at safety, we need to see some better safeties. And I don't that one I feel the most confident in, partially because our safeties have been so bad for so long. I'm talking abysmal. I mean, Savage might have been our best safety, and that's not saying a ton. Owens was horrific. Anthony Johnson is just not where he needs to be. I think Rudy Ford was the only guy I kind of appreciated over the last several years, at least on occasion. He was very spotty, but he would have like 2, 3, 4 really good games a year. But, offensive line needs to be better than, there should be improvement there. And I think that one's going to be probably the hardest, where they took some swings there, especially a first-round pick. And I don't know that it's going to get better, especially if they force the Jordan Morgan to left tackle. And I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do necessarily, but, I don't know. Look, Rasheed Walker, for whatever good or bad, he was a pretty solid pass blocker, if nothing else. He kept Jordan upright a pretty solid percentage of the time. And so even if there's some slight marginal improvement there, I don't know that we got better, especially since I think we got worse at right guard. I don't know how that gets fixed. Rasheed is not going to right guard. Zach Thomas staying at right tackle. I guess we hope Monk kind of becomes the thing, but that's sort of the bottom line is, first of all, offensive line is the most important of these three. They got to figure something out, because all this is for nothing if we can't protect Jordan, let alone the run game being, a struggling part of the offense. But that would be my, I guess, criteria. And look, it's always going to be somewhat long-term, so even if they're maybe not their best this year, you have hope for next year. It's not like we either have dominant elite this, that, or the other, or else it was a garbage draft. You got to give them the whole 3 years or whatever the case. But we've had some really solid luck over the last several years. I mean, you go back 2 years ago, it's not hard to see why. Again, you look at varying degrees of excitement about Christian Watson, but, Watson and Dobbs and that whole crew, very exciting group that did contribute immediately, and we're excited about their growth long term. And then you look at last year's draft, and it's very easy to get excited about the tight ends, and again with wide receivers. I'm excited about Lucas Van Ness, to be honest. I mean, maybe he's going to be a bust. I don't know, but I see him somewhat similar to Rashawn Gary, where you kind of saw a little bit of the flashes. He was kind of buried on the depth chart, didn't get a lot of use, but you get excited about the athleticism and all that kind of stuff. So I guess the point is the bar is set pretty high, and you had a lot of picks, and you made the decision to really hit positions that we need right now. So there is going to be some level of expectation, fair or unfair, that to some degree they're kind of ready to go right now, especially linebacker and safety, because they haven't been very good. And to go get Xavier McKinney and 3 draft picks for safety, and then to have Quay with this new defense along with Edgerrin Cooper, who, I'll be honest, I was not a huge Quay fan. I didn't fully get it, I'm still excited about him, but to put it very bluntly, I would take Edgerrin Cooper over Quay Walker if they were in the same draft. And I know Edgerrin went later and Quay went in the first round, so the Packers probably disagree. But, it's hard to get past. You look at Quay, for example, in PFF, and it's kind of just and it's kind of been the same in the NFL. And then you look at Edgerrin Cooper, the best linebacker in all of college football, and what he was able to do, and, again, like chasing down athletic quarterbacks and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm excited about the guy, and I would be borderline surprised if Edgerrin Cooper doesn't end up being our top linebacker. But anyways, long answer. Bottom line, what is it? What does success look like? Again, you went hard at those positions, especially safety and linebacker. There's an expectation that those are going to be strengths instead of weaknesses, I guess is what I would say.
Hey, what's up, Ryan? Kyle from Madison. How are you? Beautiful day today.
Yeah, not bad.
Look, I think...
Different days, but still works.
I got to talk about AI.
All right.
Now, I know we talked a lot about AI just a year ago. I remember we started, you and I had a dialogue back and forth about AI.
I don't know where this is headed, by the way, but you know what's funny about this? It was probably about a year ago, and I was going off on AI. And largely, there was sort of like almost like a mocking, eye-rolling kind of demeanor about it. Like, oh, you're okay, nerd, like whatever. As it's continuing to grow, I'm having so much fun just sitting back as sort of the doubter/haters are just getting very quiet. Like, there's so much pushback against it. And it's like, number one, it's a fad. Number two, it's not actually that good. Number three, it's they're never going to let it work. Like, there's going to be lawsuits against this, which by the way, I think is BS. The idea that you can sue an AI company for plagiarism, how? Well, you're using my stuff to be able to do this. Explain education to me. Can you sue me for plagiarism? If the idea is I go to school, I study your work, and then I go make my own work, am I plagiarizing because I learned through your work and recreated my own work over here? No. Well, that's what AI is. It's not physically taking pieces of this and putting it over here. It's learning and then recreating its own thing over here. It's not going to work. And beyond that, it's not going to be allowed to work. I know there's going to be a ton of pushback by musicians. There's going to be a ton of pushback by, writers and journalists are already pissed. They're very anti-AI. It's not going to work. You know how I know? Because all the biggest companies in the world are investing hundreds of billions of dollars into this. This is going to be the way of the future, whether you like it or not. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, when every major company is saying, screw everything else, we're all in on AI. This is what it is. And you're going to sit there and smirk and sneer like, that's not going to be. Are you kidding me? NVIDIA is one of the biggest companies in the entire world because of what's happening with AI. Because they are the main chip manufacturers right now, and they're putting all their efforts and money into manufacturing for AI-level chips. Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, Tesla, the OpenAI that created ChatGPT, they already have a major thing. The guy's going out to investors and saying, we need more. We need hundreds of billions of dollars to do better. Because what we have right now, which is already pretty awesome, is bull crap. And it needs to be way better. We are barely scratching the surface. And it is going to grow exponentially. So snicker and sneer all you want. This is the way we're going, whether you like it or not.
And the draft, and then how teams might use that as kind of like a fancy Madden pick a play kind of a thing, so they have access to that in real time. It's so crazy how much AI changes. You're absolutely right. How it'll be like kind of garbage, whatever it is,
right?
Whether it's music or whatever thing it's trying to do.
Well, and that's the other thing too. When I say like snicker and sneer, like I'll make one of these songs and people pick it apart, like, no, it doesn't even sound very good. Like, do you understand? This is just screwing around. Like, this is the first iteration. Like it's technically like the second. There's another one called like Suno. It's just not very good, but it's no different than that Dolly thing. Like I said, the first time I saw it, I typed in something and it generated an image, and the concept of it was revolutionary. Like when I saw that, I thought, this is unbelievable. Now the pictures were trash. It looked like a third grader was drawing pictures. Remember, my thing was like Aaron Rodgers as an astronaut, and it looked like a Picasso painting. It was garbage. But the fact that within 6 months, and I had no idea how fast and rapidly this was growing. Within 6 months, I went back and tried it again, and it was creating lifelike images. And those are now turning into videos. That hasn't really been put out en masse yet, kind of. There's things that can generate like 10-second clips, and they kind of suck. But music came out, and it wasn't super great. But now it's amazing. And there's a new one now that I just saw. They haven't fully released it, but they teased it. Instead of these 30-second clips that I can do now, where you have to extend it and do all these things, it creates like a 2.5-minute song with a single prompt. And it sounds better than the ones that I'm doing. This is just the beginning. This is people just trying stuff. And that's the thing. There's no money being pumped into it yet. Once people see it, they're going to start investing really heavily into it. And once that happens, it gets exponentially better really fast. It's happening so unbelievably rapidly that the music thing within, a year ago maybe was the first time I heard about AI music. Probably not. It was probably closer to 6 months. And today, you can create basically whatever you want music-wise, and it takes 10 seconds. So sitting there going, it doesn't even say, you can totally tell that's AI. It's not even good. I promise you're on the wrong side of this.
And then suddenly, it'll be next level. And that obviously happened the last few months with music. But
by the way, tomorrow, OpenAI is making some major announcement. It's not GPT-5, and it's not a search engine like it was supposed to be. But they're coming out with something. And the reason they chose to do it Monday is because I think it's Microsoft is making some big announcement on Tuesday. So, this stuff is just, it's happening so fast. I can't keep up with it. And most of the stuff that's happening with AI is not even like consumer level stuff. They're going into medicine. They're doing, a lot of the money's being pumped into things for major level businesses, which makes sense. That's where you're going to make a ton of money. But as money gets pumped into that, the stuff that trickles down to us is going to be exponentially better. Because first of all, when you have AI that's like self-replicating, it's not like people sitting there typing stuff trying to make things better. AI is improving itself. As we're using it, we're improving it. So, but then beyond that, the reason why so many industries and stuff, they don't necessarily grow as rapidly is because you don't have this level of infusion of money. Trillions of dollars have been pumped into AI over the last, 2 years. Nothing has ever been like this before, ever. There's never been this level of the entirety of the business world turning its entire attention and all of its money and all of its funds into one sector. And there's a reason for that. That Matthew McConaughey thing where it's the really terrible AI video, right? Where it's like he's walking and his feet just kind of like melt into the sand and it looks stupid and all that. Because again, it's really early AI stuff. It doesn't look that good. But what does he say? Data is the new gold. That's the truth, because that's all we're doing. We're taking all the data and giving it to machines so machines can learn it. And all we're doing is making the machines bigger, giving them more data, making them faster. And I said this years ago. Tesla is not a car company. It's a data company. All these cars are doing as they're driving is learning, and that's for one purpose, to get self-driving cars. There are trillions of hours worth of data that have helped to program cars to learn to drive. That's what Tesla's doing. And by the way, that same kind of technology is being used in those masks, right? The things you put over your eyes to get like the virtual reality, the AR, the augmented reality. How is the technology for that growing so fast? Because companies like Tesla have cars with all kinds of sensors that can see the environment around them and recreate it. And because trillions of dollars have been pumped into that, the technology exists to be able to put it into consumer things like VR goggles. Sorry, I'm a little excited about AI. Go ahead.
As someone that does music as a hustle, granted, I'm part hobbyist. I mean, I rarely crack 5 figures in a year on music, sometimes, but not by much. And work and a lot of hustle because there's a lot of people that just give away music production for free, which kind of is upsetting because it devalues it for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a person that came up learning an instrument. I just kind of got into it a little late, maybe about 7 years ago, and I chose to learn my digital audio workspace as an instrument. So I don't go do lounge piano for $500 at a hotel or something. I've got to find all, selling sound hits for people. I used to do audio books, and I'd compose, original scores for games or for an author for different things like that, right? I do have an avant-garde, make your head explode, psychedelic act that I do with a friend of mine. We got all the toys and things, and that's a synthesizer-based type of thing. But for the most part, it's been kind of a grim realization the last month or so that AI really has basically killed off a lot of what I'll ever do, and probably what a lot of musicians will do. And it's crazy because not only is it producing music that's really good, I mean, the thing that I've taken years to at least be competent on, I have basically what would have been $1 million studio when I was in high school. Now it only costs me, $10,000, $12,000 to have that same technology.
Sure.
But you need to be more well-rounded as a musician. You need to learn how to mix and how to master. And what's crazy about this AI is these songs are already mixed and mastered quite well.
Yeah.
And it's freaking me out, man. Because it's over. It's over for me in a lot of ways. So anyway, we'll talk to you later, buddy.
Well, it's interesting because there's probably going to be a window for all of us, right? Because I'm technically still in that spot. I'm already thinking again, AI can already create a podcast from start to finish. I can type in and say, write me a pod. Now, it's not going to be me and it's not going to be this, but at some point, who knows? But there's a window where right now we can use AI to make what we're doing a lot better. Some things are going to be taken over probably sooner than later. Music might be one of those before, podcasts, because that's kind of a weird little thing. But yeah, it's interesting because, for example, I've got Adobe Premiere Pro open right now. It's a video editing software. What AI, I think, is going to start doing, and you can probably do this with music soon, if not already, is, there's so many controls. It's very confusing. You got to spend hours and hours. You probably could take like a class on things like this. And I'm sure same with like all the audio mixing stuff. I mean, you watch people create audio and they add in this and that, and they tweak things, and they, add in the drum beat and, whatever. What I think will be cool in the meantime is, rather than all the complicated stuff, you'll be able to write prompts or even talk into it, which is what I would love. I'm already to the point now where I'll pull up a document and just have it like transcribe my voice, so I don't have to type this all out and just talk and then give it to the AI. But anyways, to have AI kind of, you can set out a baseline, like create this, and then you can go in and you can edit it and you can master it and you can do that. And again, it'd be a lot easier because you can tell it what to do. I want to take this line and I want to make it sound, a little higher and a little bit faster and a little bit more, and it'll just do it and it'll create it for you. The problem is going to be, right now, people that are good at music are better than AI. The stuff that I'm creating with AI, people that are really good at music can do a better job. They can get in there. If that was able to be transformed into some kind of a program, somebody can get in, they can master it, they can certainly improve it. But for how long? How long before artists are actually better? I don't know. Probably not very long, because the bottom line behind AI is, as this music thing grows, the whole thing is we're going to take all music, give it to a robot, and the robot's going to learn everything there is to learn. There's not going to be a lot of humans that'll be able to produce what AI will. And so really, people that are good at music are people that have such a deep understanding that they can communicate to AI to get it to create something masterful, right? But how hard is it going to be for me to just say, I don't know, make something amazing? You tell me, I don't know what to do. So there's going to be a small gap between, and that's going to be the hard part, because I know a lot of people are not going to be okay with AI. Not just musicians, but consumers. Like, I don't want some stupid robot thing. I want, a human being that put their soul into this kind of thing. And I can appreciate that. But again, the gap is going to be so small, and it's just going to be hard. It's going to be hard to especially make a living when the whole market is going to be so flooded with music, and everybody everybody creates their own music, and you're going to have people that are, quote unquote AI artists who create really cool sounds and musics that are going to be consumed. And it's just going to be a smaller market, and it's going to be hard to kind of survive and thrive in that environment, which is unfortunate. But I do think that's going to be an unfortunate reality. For example, there's a lot of emotion in music, and there's certainly a lot of songs that you listen to, like when you're maybe not in a good space or you go through something traumatic, and you listen to a song that just has those words that kind of cut through, right? But a lot of times for me, I'll listen to it and it's like, well, this doesn't apply. Like, I got to kind of like pretend I can't hear half of the song, because it's like, well, I don't do drugs, but, I'll pretend it's something else. And then like, you can create a song very much like this that is exactly you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's going to be interesting on the music front. And again, I know a lot of people are very opposed to this, partially because of fear, partially just because, it's just they don't want it. But I'm not that way. I like advancements. I think we always improve when we go forward. I know it's scary, and it may happen so abruptly that it could cause problems. But I don't think we've ever had a situation where we've had advancements and we've gone backwards as a result. Like I've used the example when cars came around, people that bred horses, people that literally were paid to shovel horse crap off of streets, guys like that, they started losing their jobs. But I don't think there was some massive economic crisis that took place. We got significantly better as a result. And all I can tell you is my life is infinitely better. Now, again, there's a slight level of guilt when I can create a song in 2 seconds and other people spend their entire life learning how to make music. But at the same time, I don't care. It's a tool at my disposal, and I'm going to use it. And my ability to learn and consume and comprehend has grown exponentially. I can take all the information from today and everything that's happened in AI, and I can give it to AI, and I can say, tell me what's going on. And then I can interact with it. I'll be, well, what about this? How does this work? Well, what happens if da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? It's good, and it's only going to get better. And, you know what? I'm not going to do it. There was a huge advancement that's going to be massive, but I got to stop. We got to get off the AI thing. I very much contemplated starting my own little ranty podcast to talk about AI and grilling or whatever else is on my mind, but I don't want to commit to that because I can barely commit to this. But anyways, let's take a break. Kyle, getting me all revved up. Kyle's going to come back and hopefully talk about something else. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's peachy.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Yeah, I thought I could squeeze all that into 3 minutes. I kind of did, but no, I want to finish my point here because, you know, for those of us in music that aren't, you know, live musicians, and when I say live musicians, like, you can put me in front of a piano. I'm not going to go out there and play for 2 hours. Like, that's not how I am. I'm a digital musician. I am in the box, you know, that kind of thing, right? I guess if I don't go busk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, everything I do is usually in a virtual space. Usually, not always. But my point is that in one swoop, this AI, it didn't just take, you know, 90% of the small dollar, you know, Fiverr and whatnot type of sites, you know, gig walk, all these like gigging sites, right?
Well, not only that, I mean, you're right. They have ruined all of that stuff. I had a paid subscription to a service where I can use their music. That's gone, right? It's like, well, you have to pay for this. I'm paying less for this, which can generate my own music with my own lyrics and everything else that I want exactly. And I can cut out my other subscriptions. I've been able to cut a ton of subscriptions because I don't need it anymore because I got robots doing it for me, and it's better.
They have been kind of the low-balling establishment for years. But, I mean, literally AI is going to put 90% of that out of business. But what's crazy about
even Fiverr's overpriced nowadays.
Is like I was saying, it isn't just the music creation, right? If it was an incremental advancement, like most technologies through history, at least to start, what you'd see is the AI comes out, but, you know, the producers and the mixing artists still have a career. Right. And then as it gets better, okay, maybe it can do a little mixing now, and then, you know, a little bit in the future, maybe those positions are all overtaken. But instead what's happening is in one moment, it goes from being just garbage to being amazing. And
yeah, music might be unique in that way. Like, I don't think video is going to be as rapid. It's a very complicated thing to create videos. It's already kind of happening. But you think about it in terms of like, okay, a video is one thing. Like, you can make a beautiful video of a person walking through a forest for 60 seconds. But how long is it going to be before AI can create a movie? Like, from start to finish, plot, all that stuff. So I think for video and things like that, it's going to be more of a tool that's going to be very useful with an imminent threat that at someday that is going to happen. I will be able to just type in, create a horror movie similar to It, and I can put in whatever else, and it might take 5 minutes to generate a movie, and I'll be able to sit down and watch a movie. That's going to, but it's going to be a long time. Music, I can't envision a way in which it's I don't want to say borderline almost dead, because I mean, people like Taylor Swift are not going to, you know, the Swifties or what, they're already obsessed. But think about another generation from now. You think younger people who are growing up in a world where they can generate their own music and music is just everywhere, that they're going to start obsessing and idolizing musicians? Are they going to go to concerts? I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. And it's also different for me because apparently I've reached an age where I don't consume new music. It's funny, I listened to this YouTube video and it was like, metal songs for every year from like 1970 or something. And I knew all the songs up until about 2010. And then there were like two that I read, but like every single song, like 91, 92, 93, it's like, of course, everybody knows this song. So there was just a moment in time where it's like, I guess I'm just not consuming new music. So there's nothing I need anymore. There's the old songs that I know from musicians that are barely putting out music, and if they are, I don't care about it anymore. Like there's apparently, I think there's a new Metallica out. It was on that metal thing. That's how I found out about it. Maybe it wasn't Metallica. I don't know. But I don't care. So I have no problem generating all my new music because I'm not consuming any new music. And again, I think that might be kind of a concern at some point, right? Young people who have their sort of bands that they like, their artists that they like, they're going to track with that. But that's generational. And then they're going to reach an age where their artists are not producing anymore. And where are they going to go? And then my kids, when they get older, are they going to have bands that they're obsessed with, or is it just going to be music? And music is at your fingertips. So anyways, the point is, I when you think about AI and how it can be disruptive, I didn't necessarily see it happening this quickly, but music seems like it's going to be massively and immediately disruptive.
You're getting three different disciplines are being removed from the equation in one moment in advancement, right? Your mixing engineer, no longer required. The artist to write the damn song, and the producer who finishes it off for you, masters it, they're no longer required either. So in like, you take, not you, but AI has taken three big disciplines. The creative, the mixing engineer, the mastering engineer, and just replace them all. They're gone. You don't need them.
Yeah.
I suspect the big studios will hang on with, because they usually stay with what's comfy for probably too long. I suspect the big studios for movies and for audio, video, the Netflixes of the world, that kind of thing, they usually stick to tradition, so they'll probably stay with their composers and whatnot for a little bit longer. But I mean, I can't imagine what it's going to be like in 6 months. You will not be hiring people, and it's weird because how I feel about my own music now has changed because it's like, gee, everybody will just think all your stuff is AI now. It's like the default expectation.
Right.
Kind of takes away from your art,
Right.
Anyway, we'll talk to you later.
And again, some people will always appreciate art, and AI is not art. It's just not. It's ones and zeros. But the point is, it's going to shrink the market and massively. And I think the biggest issue that AI across the board has right now is editing, which is where, image generation is basically perfect. There's nothing it can't generate. The problem is nothing's going to be perfect. So like, for example, creating logos. You can almost perfectly do that, but there's going to be little tweaks here and there. It's where people who are good with like Photoshop, AI is amazing right now because you can have AI do 90% of the work and you can go in and make really cool edits and it'll save you a massive amount of time and you can generate these beautiful looking things. And until that gets fixed, like for example, I'll generate a logo and you've probably seen it like on YouTube videos, thumbnails and whatnot. There'll be words that are all messed up and things that are crazy. And they allow you to go in and like circle an area and say, fix this, but it sucks. It almost never works. If I take an area and say, I want this text to change to Packernet podcast, it's not going to work. It's not going to do it right. But as soon as it does, again, everybody can make logos. Everybody can make designs. So that whole industry is basically dead, aside from people that either don't know about AI or just don't feel like doing it. But how much are you going to pay? You're going to pay $200 for someone to create a logo? Why? I'll do it for $10. I can do it in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So it's going to crush all of that. And it's interesting to try to think thoroughly about what that means. A lot of the support industries are going to get crushed because AI will be your support, right? So if you have a business, if you're a law firm, I don't think AI is going to disrupt that necessarily. It's too risky, especially now where there's hallucinating. You don't want to use AI, and some people have been caught doing that, and it's disastrous. But, you know, the website creation, the logo creation, all the things, these little things that they might outsource, don't need it anymore. I mean, think about it. I mean, think how much it used to cost if you wanted to, I mean, even before Fiverr, because Fiverr was amazing in that I can give somebody $10 and they can create a jingle for my podcast or something. But imagine, you know, in 1998, if you went to a company or musicians or whatever and you said, I have a business and I'd like for you to create a little jingle that I want to put on TV. How much would that cost? Probably hundreds of dollars for somebody to you know, write out the lyrics and work on the, you know, and do all the stuff and the recording and the mix. It's just, I'm putting new music on this podcast daily just for fun. And I spend more time than I need to just trying to get the right exact things. And I can spend more time and make it better. I can spend less time and just make it silly, which I do sometimes. But again, and this is just AI screwing around. This is people who have no idea what we just stumbled into this and they're like, oh, what happens if I take all this data and throw it at a machine and see what spits out? Like, oh, that's crazy. And it's so rapid. Again, like 3 months ago, I stumbled onto music generation and it sucked. And then I found this and it was amazing. And like I said, I just saw today, I forgot what it's called. It's actually a company that I was looking, oh, here, it's right here. I got the tab open. 11 Labs. So they've got some really cool stuff. Let me just play this for you real quick.
Surprising move. OpenAI is reportedly set to announce a new ChatGPT-powered search engine on Monday, just 1 day before Google's highly anticipated I/O developer conference.
So I just copy and pasted something. So I had AI summarize. So that this is just what I'm doing throughout the day. I get emails constantly about new AI things. I just copy and paste it, put it over on the AI, and I say, okay, tell me what's going on. It summarizes it. I said, okay, do me a favor. Turn that into like a 60-second update in AI thing. So I copy and paste that over on 11 Labs with the potential of like you can easily make this a little YouTube thing. So I just wanted to see what it sounded like. 11 Labs does this thing where you can change the voice and the voice settings, and they got all this stuff, stability, similarity. You can upgrade this to make it sound even better. But like this service used to be garbage too. I mean, it sounds good.
This new search product is expected to allow ChatGPT.
You know what I mean? Like that's just copy and paste. I didn't pay for this. I just stumbled on it. So anyways, this company, 11 Labs, has taken this to start generate music. I don't have access to it. They haven't released it yet. But again, it's better than what I'm using now. And like you said, in 6 months, everything we're using now, everything AI is going to be garbage. And the founder of OpenAI said that. He said he's basically embarrassed by ChatGPT, which GPT-4 is incredible. It's an amazing product. And he's basically embarrassed by it. And he says, very soon this is going to be the dumbest model you'll ever have to use. Kyle, let's get to your last call here, and then I see you open the floodgates. I've been waiting to talk about AI for a long time. You open the floodgates, and it's like I got to get everything off my chest.
Ryan, Kyle again. I just got caught up on the podcast. I see AI was brought up several times in both podcasts today, so I hadn't heard that before, and I called in to chime in, and it's definitely in the zeitgeist because you've been talking about it, and a couple of people, I think was it Garrett, I think, from Southern Illinois, a couple people talking about AI on the podcast, so it's definitely, in the zeitgeist, but I wanted to call you one more time about, you're talking about the IQ test, right?
Sure.
So last decade, I was working in grad school, and my discipline required I had to study tests, basically instruments, as they call them.
Sure.
So like the Myers-Briggs, all the different IQ tests, and then we started looking at college placement tests. And around that time, there was a bunch of controversy because there was a lawsuit by, I believe he was a Chinese-American student, and I'm going to get this all wrong, but one of the Ivy League schools, he sued one of the Ivy League schools, and he was citing that there was a cultural bias in their placement exams. Whereas if you weren't, in a certain cultural upbringing, you had a huge disadvantage on this examination. And immediately there was two camps of people about how dare you question that, you're looking for some affirmative action, blah, blah, blah camp. And then there was the, this is why we don't test, everybody gets the participation trophy camp of people, right?
Yep. And
actually the truth was, yeah, actually when they looked into it, yes, people have very diverse backgrounds. They learn different things based on their culture, even within this country. And that was kind of when the Wonderlic went away, and I wonder if it didn't just get lumped into this group thinking of like, oh, well, the Wonderlic's probably like that too. It certainly could be. It certainly could be, have a big cultural bias, right? But I think I remember it kind of, and being on everybody's S list shortly after that lawsuit. But one of the things I remember is how hard it is to test for IQ without testing for education. And you might think, well, that's one and the same. Well, no.
Right.
Let's say I'm a really smart guy, but I leave school in 7th grade to go work on a farm.
Right.
Doesn't change my IQ. It changes my education.
And my understanding of IQ is it's more or less set in stone by the age of like 3 or 4 or something really young. So yeah, it's almost entirely independent of education.
And so
could be wrong about that.
I just remember how difficult all those projects were where we were trying to suss out how to get after the actual intelligence without just revealing education level. Because you really do have what you learn and how much you remember of what you learn is based on location and culture and what you think will be important to you, right? So if they could figure out an IQ test that was specific to the NFL, like you're saying, I think that would be the most helpful.
Yeah.
Also, I was just thinking, didn't Nick Collins get like an 8 on his Wonderlic? So who knows if it is effective or not. But anyway, I thought I'd just chime in with that. Adios.
Yeah, so again, I don't think it's necessarily debatable that Wonderlic is not a good tool in the NFL. Now, maybe there's a way to, kind of redesign it a little bit, or take certain variables into account to kind of make it work. But I feel like we're just using a bad tool. But again, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Wonderlic doesn't work, therefore we shouldn't do intelligence testing. I just, again, it's no different to me than speed. It's not everything, but I want to know, acting like, well, the 40 doesn't work, so, wondering about a person's speed is stupid. It's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant at all. Speed is very relevant. So, yeah, I think something better needs to be done. We need to find a way. And again, maybe we just need to change the word intelligence. Maybe that's the problem. It's such a touchy subject, which is also why I get annoyed with it, because some people are just sensitive to it, and that's why they don't want it in, as I've said before. So maybe get rid of the intelligence part of it, because to be fair, we're not actually. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that's actually what we're digging at, but listen, football is such a mentally taxing game. We've seen it. How many of you have seen now? There were 2 different people that just recently released videos. One guy came out and he said, I want to show you just the installs. And they showed like the playbook and how I'm looking at that. And I'm going, I couldn't play football. Like, I don't think I'm stupid. Well, I don't think I'm a genius, but I don't think I'm stupid. And I'm looking at this and going, I couldn't do it. There's no way. It's too much. He's reading off the play. I would just be overwhelmed, and I'd say, I can't freaking do this. I'm not doing it. So, the ability to gather in, like, I'm terrible at that part of it, which is, like sitting down and consuming information, like especially from a book. I am horrific at that. I don't know if that correlates to intelligence or like what part of understanding and learning that is. That's why I'm terrible at school. I was horrible at school. I would sit down and I would try to read something, and I'm pretty positive I have ADD, but it's never been diagnosed. But it's like I would sit and read a page, and I couldn't tell you one word that I just read. Not one. I remember it was hilarious. I could sit in school. I don't know if this is a superpower, if everybody does this or what. When they would call on you and tell you to read, I would sit and read this page or this paragraph. I would read it, and I'd be thinking about something else as I'm doing it. And I couldn't tell you one. It was like I was on autopilot. Somehow a part of me is reading this, but I'm not processing a single thing I read. I'm not hearing a thing that I'm reading. I couldn't tell you a single word. I'm having separate thoughts. I'm thinking about like, oh, somebody's staring at me. What's going on over here? I can't wait until this is done. How far am I? I'm almost done. And then, you get done reading the paragraph and she'd ask you a question about it. Like, okay, so what does that mean to you? I'm like, bro, I don't even know what I have no idea what just happened right now. I just got through that. I want to be done. I did my part. You calling somebody else now. So again, I'm saying that because I think that affliction for me would be negative in terms of my ability to be a football player. Now, again, maybe some of that's ruled out because anybody with that probably wouldn't be, if that was a problem, it would have showed up in college first. But still, that's just an example. Let's use that as an example. And then also, let's say everybody's relatively good at that, but how good? Like if I can have you sit down and you can pour through this like frickin' the Rain Man or Adrian Monk, where you can just flip through this thing and you got it, boom, memorized. That's an important attribute. I'd like to know that. But we just got to figure out something that's better and figure out how to get to that. Honestly, like one of the things that, what's his name does, remember he did the QB thing? And he'd have these guys come down, he'd sit down, he'd say, I'll tell you a play. And he'd tell them a play. It was a real complicated play, right? And then he would, okay, enough. I think he drew it on the board, he showed the whole play, and then he flipped the board over, and then they sat and they had a conversation. They talk about other stuff. Tell me about this. He'd have a recall, trying to get him to remember some stuff. Tell me about this play back, when you played Kansas and this happened, da, 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 da. And after 5 minutes talking, he's like, okay, remember that play? Go draw that play. That kind of stuff to me matters. Not only did you process it, but you're able to retain it and you're able to apply it and you can explain it to me. Like that's high level stuff. And I care about that. By the way, Myers-Briggs, I'm an INTJ, just so everybody's clear on that. Very proud of that. I don't know why. I found out INTJ I think is the most rare. And as you read through it, it's pretty funny. Like if you do the Myers-Briggs, maybe not everybody, but the people that I know that have done it, it's like that's me to a freaking T. It's introvert, intuitive, thinking, and judging. It's like, yep. Because it's split up into either introversion or extroversion, right? Obviously. There's intuition versus sensing. There's feeling versus thinking. I'm guessing you can tell what side I fall on that. And then judging versus perceiving. Again, you could probably figure that out. So yeah, introvert, intuition, thinking, judging. Prefer solitude, interest in abstract concepts. That's what we've been doing for the last 20 minutes. I live in abstract constructs. More interested in abstract concepts, patterns, and future possibilities than concrete details. Yup. They base their decisions on objective logic rather than analyzing personal feelings. Can we all agree that's a staple of this podcast? Okay. They can be skeptical and critical, challenging ideas and theories that lack logical foundation. Sounds about right. Struggle with expressing emotions, may be perceived as aloof or insensitive. Yup. Anyways, I just forgot about that until now when you mentioned Myers-Briggs. I'm like, I should ask the robot. I'm going to talk to the robot about some INTJ. Just be like, tell me about myself, robot. But I'm going to go do that by myself. By the way, we've got 2 calls. We got Peter Thomas, our resident symphonic musician, and Nico from Idaho. As you can probably guess, 2 calls is not enough calls. So get your calls in. And we'll do it tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll talk to you when I talk to you. You guys have a good night. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
On Packernet. After dark, we've had our say, from draft daydreams to AI's play, with hopes for rookies and Green Bay's plan. Tune in again to cheer for our team stand.